Hello, welcome back. Today I am going to be showing you a little technique for how to uncover profitable keywords really quickly. I'm going to be using 3 different tools. I'm going to be using Keywords Everywhere, which is a paid tool, but it is extremely affordable. I'm going to be using AMZ Suggestion Expander, which is a free tool, and I'm also going to be using Publisher Rocket. So let's go ahead and we will jump right in. My name is Rachel Harrison-Sun, and I help people to create and sell journals, planners, notebooks, and more on the Kindle Direct Publishing platform. If that sounds interesting to you, please subscribe and don't forget to hit the bell so that you can be notified every time I put out one of these videos each and every Monday. So first, you are going to go to Amazon.com and you're going to do so in an incognito window. And the reason we want to use an incognito window is because that removes the search bias. So if you were to just go to Amazon.com and just start typing away, it would take into account all of the other searches that you have searched for in Amazon, and that would affect your search results. So using an incognito window wipes that slate clean, and it's as if you're going to Amazon for the first time and you will get a completely fresh group of results. Now, I have already installed Keywords Everywhere and I already have AMZ Suggestion Expander. And once you've installed those, you want to make sure that those have been enabled in incognito as well. So you'll go to your Chrome extensions and there'll be a little switch that says to enable them in incognito mode. So you're going to want to do that first as well. Now, what we're going to do first is choose books. And then we are simply going to start going through the alphabet. So we're going to type A, and this is what would normally come up without these tools. AMZ Suggestion Expander opens up all of these other keywords that we simply would not have been able to see otherwise. So obviously this really speeds up the process because you're getting shown all of these additional keywords that you wouldn't get to see without it. Now, Keywords Everywhere is showing us the search volume. Now, it only shows us in this first column. That's totally fine. This is just going to shave some time off initially. If we see anything in these other columns, we'll be able to figure out the search volume later on in Publisher Rocket, so we won't worry about that right now. Now, you're going to notice this as well, this row here. This is if we got the paid version of the AMZ Suggestion Expander, that would show us the search results there. Now, the reason I'm not doing that is because Keywords Everywhere is just cheaper. You pay $10 once, and that will give you 100,000 credits, 1 credit per keyword. That's usually going to work out to be quite a lot cheaper than paying the, $14, $15 a month for the upgraded version of AMZ Suggestion Expander. So depending on your search habits, it's likely going to be the same for you. And Keywords Everywhere will be the cheapest way to go here. So now all I'm going to do, I'm going to go through the alphabet, and if I see any keywords here that I'm interested in, I'm going to type that out into a spreadsheet. So I am looking for broad keywords, but I'm also trying to find keywords that I just have never heard of before. And for the time being, I'm going to avoid keywords that I just know for a fact are way too competitive. So for example, adult coloring book, we're not going to go there. Activity book for kids, we're not going to go there. Actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and copy down activity book for kids anyways. We'll just go ahead and we'll see if we can find anything a little bit more niche down. So that'll be our first word. I'm just going to copy this along with the search volume into a spreadsheet. So activity book for kids, 610 searches per month. And we'll move on to the next one. So after you've gone through the first letter, you'll just move through to the next one. So, okay, book talk journal. That is something that before today I had never heard of. Now, I did look this up before this video started here because I wanted to make sure that I wanted to find out what it was first. So if you're familiar with the social media platform TikTok, book talk is basically like a trending hashtag on TikTok where people review books, talk about literary tropes, that kind of a thing. And a book talk journal is a place where you can record your own, the different books that you have read and you can review them and things like that. So that is what a book talk journal is. But I never in a million years would have come across this particular keyword because I'd never even heard of it before. So that is the next one that we're going to jot down in our spreadsheet. Okay, I'm not seeing anything else for B, so we'll go on to C. So again, coloring book for kids, composition notebook, coloring book for adults. I know that those are super competitive. I'm going to skip those. I'm really looking for some more niched down little nuggets here. All right, so I'm going to move on to D. Daily planner, again, I know that's crazy competitive, so I'm going to skip that for now. And I'll move on to E. All right, so moving on to E, the first one here, we see Easter coloring book. Now I know coloring book's too competitive, but Easter coloring book, that's more niched down, 1,600 searches per month. So let's go ahead and check that one out. Okay, we'll move on to F. All right, nothing really here. So we'll go on to G. Okay, graph paper notebook. That might be one to jot down. That's 9,900. All right, gratitude journal for kids. I'm pretty sure that's pretty competitive. Now that's not to say you can't check these out, and as you'll see when we move over to Publisher Rocket, you're going to be able to niche down further from there, but for the purposes of this video, I'm going to avoid those really competitive ones for now. So I'm not going to do it now because we'll be here all day, but you can go through the entire alphabet this way. Once you've done that, you're not done yet. You're going to come straight back to A. And now that you've got A typed in as the first letter, you're going to do the same thing again. You're going to go through the whole alphabet. So actually, we'll do A first. I don't know if there's going to be many, like aardvark, low content book themes here, but all right. So yeah, there's not going to be anything for double A, but next we can type in B. All right. So ABC letter tracing for preschools. That might be one to check out, although it's not showing any search volume. Move on to C. Okay, accounting ledger book. That might be something, 2,900. All right, again, activity book for kids. I know that's going to be too competitive, so I'm going to skip that. So again, I would just go through the entire alphabet here. Once I've done that, there are a couple things. You can either go another letter deep here. So we know we're not going to have much for A, but you could type in B and then you could go A, B, C, D all the way down the line. Or you can just go back to, we've done A, now we would do B and start the process all over again with A. So baby shower guest book, again, I know that one's going to be a little bit too competitive. And then B, but you get the point here, right? C. So you'll just go all the way through again, and you'll do this for the entire alphabet through every letter of the alphabet. Hopefully that makes sense. When you've got your list, then you will head over to Publisher Rocket. That's what we're going to go and do now. Okay, so now we are over in Publisher Rocket, and I've got my list of keywords that I have generated. I went through the alphabet. I didn't go through the entire process, but I've got a few more keywords jotted down on my spreadsheet here, so we will go ahead and go through them now. So we'll go into the keyword search, and we'll just type in our very first keyword. Now you don't have to use Publisher Rocket. You could use something similar like Helium-10. Publisher Rocket is what I use. So if you're unfamiliar with Publisher Rocket, I will just give you a very brief tour. So the great thing about Publisher Rocket is you just type in a keyword, and over to the left here, it's going to give you all of these related keywords, which is obviously super handy and saves an absolute ton of time. It's also going to show you a bunch of other information. Generally, don't worry about average pages, even number of competitors. This I used to look at a lot more a few years ago when there were a lot less competitors. Now there are just so many different competitors out there, it's almost irrelevant. Publisher Rocket is only going to show you up to 1,200 competitors anyway, so oftentimes you're going to see over 1,200 competitors here, so you're really not going to get a good sense of how many. And the main thing to keep in mind here is that you're really only competing with the books that show up on the first page of results. That's the page you should be most concerned with. So those books that show up on that first page are going to be the ones that you want to assess whether or not you can compete with them. Don't worry about the hundreds or potentially thousands of other books. You're really only concerned with those on the first page. Next, it's going to show you the average price, the average monthly earnings, and what we really want to see here are the estimated searches per month and the competitive score. So I'm going to go down the list here, and I'm going to click on this little icon for the ones that I want to investigate further. And I'm only going to do this for ones that I think are going to be relevant. And we'll go down the list here, and we'll take a look. So for example, Disney, we don't ever want to go anywhere near anything trademarked, so I'm not going to click on that one. Anything else I think might be relevant though, I will go ahead and check out. So you can see here we had our broad keyword of activity book for kids, and now we're getting a bunch more niched down keywords here. And I'm not going to go all the way down the list here, but you get the general idea. So Publisher Rocket recently came out with this color code feature, which is pretty handy. So I'm sure you can guess, red means less competitive, red means the most competitive, yellow is kind of in the middle, moderately competitive, and green means least competitive. So personally, I like to look for Amazon searches per month of around 1,000 or more. Now this is not a hard cutoff here. You can go down to just a few hundred searches per month. The thing to just keep in mind is the lower your search volume usually translates into fewer sales because there just aren't as many people looking for that keyword. So that's fine. You could use that as part of a strategy of, focusing on lower searches per month, knowing that you're probably going to have to create more books to make up for that lack of sales. So even though I prefer to see searches per month of 1,000 or more, that's not to say that you can't still have success with lower search volumes. It just, generally speaking, means you're going to need to produce more books because you're going to have to make up for those fewer sales somehow. So it's just a little bit of a balancing act that you're going to have to keep in mind. Now, for the competitive score, you'll see that, yellow is moderately competitive. I think it's totally okay to go into the yellow zone for low content books. And the reason is this tool is used mostly by authors of fiction, they're writing novels or nonfiction books. So those are, obviously a much bigger time and energy and effort investment than a low content book, which can be created very quickly. So it's a lot less risky for us as low content publishers to put something together than it is to, say, write a 500-page novel. It's going to take a lot more time and effort. So I think it's, for us, we can go up higher on that competitive score and, take a few more of those risks, so to speak. In this case here, though, we've got less than 100 searches per month. That, to me, is just way too few, so I wouldn't go anywhere near that one. Now we've got Valentine activity book for kids. So that's got a fairly decent number of searches. I mean, it's not 1,000, but it's almost 600, and there's a moderate competition score here. So this is definitely one that I'm going to want to check out. So we'll go ahead and click into that. And here we are in the competition analyzer. So you've got the title of the book here with the covers. You've got the author, the age of the book in days. What I'm looking for is the bestsellers rank, because I want to know if these books are selling, and it looks like they are. There's some really good bestsellers rank here. So anything, 100,000 or under is pretty good. You can go up to like 200,000 or 300,000. That's still going to be, that still means that the book is selling, a couple of copies a month. They're still making somewhat decent sales. And you can head over here and see the monthly sales on each of these books as well. There's some other information here. Page number, I don't really find too useful. Keyword in the title. Amazon likes to see keywords in titles. So if you're going down the list here and you see a no in all of these titles, that could be an opportunity here. And then it also just shows you the price of the book. So what I'm here to look for is the bestsellers rank, the sales. Yes, this looks like a pretty hot market. I'm going to go back over here, and then I'm just going to take a look at the covers. And I really recommend you actually head over to Amazon so you can check out the interiors of these books. And you want to ask yourself, quite honestly, can you compete with these books? Now, if I think that I can create something as good as, or preferably better than what I'm seeing here, based on what I'm seeing so far, this has the potential to be a profitable keyword. So our initial keyword was activity book for kids, and through Publisher Rocket, we ended up finding, Valentine activity book for kids. So we were able to niche down very quickly. So I'm just going to put that down here. And what did we say? 594 searches per month, not bad. And if you want, you can jot down the competitive score. I'm not going to do that right now. And then we'll just take a quick peek here. Activity book for kids on Airplane. Again, that's starting to get a bit low for me, but as I said, there's no hard line cutoff here. That might also be a potentially profitable keyword that you could jot down. So we didn't go ahead and check all these other ones out, but I'm going to move on to the next keyword. So the next one was Book Talk Journal. All right, again, I'm looking for the most relevant keywords here. So this one looks like a bit of a bust. There's just really not a whole lot of searches here. Now this one, the Book Talk Journal, that's kind of borderline. 400's getting pretty low. It might be one that you want to investigate. I'm going to leave it for now. Now, one other thing I want to point out here with Book Talk Journal. Book Talk is obviously a word that was just, it's a new word that was just created recently. So in this case, what I would do is I would head over to the USPTO database and I would just take a look and make sure that there are no pending trademark applications for this word. This, who knows, this could have been something like the bullet journal or something like that. So we always want to make sure that we're not infringing on anyone else's trademark or anything like that. So if this showed a little bit more promise, that's what I would do. I'd go over and just make sure that there are no trademarks or anything like that on this particular keyword. But this one, we could potentially check this out. I'm going to leave it for now, and I'm just going to go down the line here. And next, I'm going to check out Easter coloring book. And again, we'll go down the line. Again, I'm leaving out ones, Bundle, Disney. I'm not going to go through the entire list here because it looks like there's one or two that we can check out further. So again, these ones are kind of a bust up top. But okay, Easter coloring book, adults. We've got 800 searches. We've got a competitive score of 20. This is one that I would definitely want to check out. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, bestsellers rank. They're not amazing, but we've got a couple in here. This one right here, that's a pretty good bestsellers rank. 109,000, that's decent. A few of these are selling. You can see over to the right here, the monthly sales. Now, a couple of them are kind of cleaning house here, but the other ones, they're not doing great. But remember, if you've got multiple books selling each month, these can add up really quickly. And then again, I'll go over here and I'll just take a look. Is this something that I can compete with? And I would go over to Amazon and I would take a look at the interiors and just get a sense of, you know, how many pages. And that's something we can see here. What's the quality like? Can I compete? Now, as far as I'm concerned, this definitely has the potential to be a profitable keyword. So I am going to go ahead and jot that down. So Easter coloring book for adults, 800 searches a month. What was that? I think it was 818. All right, next one down here, Easter coloring book Christian. Again, 970 searches a month. Competitive score 45. Let's check that out. All right, we've got some really good bestsellers ranks here. Anything under 100,000 is great. It's definitely a few. There's some good monthly sales here. And again, I'm looking here thinking, you know, can I compete with what I'm seeing here? All right, this definitely looks like a potentially profitable keyword. So Easter coloring book Christian, and that was 970. So from our main keyword of Easter coloring book, we've got a couple of more niched down keywords here with really decent searches. All right, that was 818. I don't know how that suddenly became 8,000. So I'm not going to go through all of these keywords, but I am going to quickly go through a couple more that are of, you know, most interest to me. So I'm going to skip graph paper notebook for now. I'm going to skip accounting ledger book. I want to take a look at this activity book for couples. So that looks pretty competitive. So that looks like a bust. And then I also wanted to look at anatomy coloring book. All right, I never would have thought of an anatomy coloring book of cats or dogs. So that could be something potentially interesting. Muscles, that's starting to get quite niche. Yoga anatomy coloring book, that's quite niche. All right, I'm gonna leave it there for now. Okay, anatomy coloring book for kids. So again, it's not a huge number of searches, moderately competitive. Let's go ahead and check it out. All right, so there's definitely some decent sales here. Now, with these anatomy coloring books, a lot of this is going to be very technical. So depending on your skill level, you know, if you're an illustrator and this is something that you could do, this could be, you know, something that you could really make a nice job of. If you are like me, or probably most of you who don't have the skill, this could be something that you outsource. Or you can see, like with this one here, this is a little bit more of done in more of a cartoon style, so it's not necessarily technical drawing. So that's kind of an option. You always want to be thinking of ways to kind of, you know, think outside of the box, for lack of a better phrase here. Veterinary anatomy coloring book, that's interesting. Okay, so let's just go back and see if we can find anything that's just a little bit more promising. So for example, this anatomy coloring book for artists, that's got more searches and roughly the same competitive score. So let's check that one out. So again, something like this would definitely be better suited for if you are already an illustrator and you can actually draw some of this stuff. So I think there's definitely potential here. I'm going to leave it out because for me, I know I probably wouldn't be able to actually do any of these drawings. Okay, anatomy coloring book EMT. Man, like this is something I like to see. Over 2,000 searches, competitive score of 25. Let's check that out. All right, some great sales here. Great bestsellers ranks. Now again, this is going to be a lot of technical drawing, but think about ways to get around that. So what I always like to do is I like to look at what everyone else is doing here. So these look like they're all pretty much going to be, you know, more technical drawings. What about if you did something that was kind of more of like a joke, a joke kind of a book? One of the best ways to kind of break outside the box is to think about how you can inject humor into whatever the topic is that you're looking at. So these are all pretty dry technical illustrations. What if you created something that was sort of like a gift for EMTs? So you could still use the word, anatomy coloring book EMT. If you could still capitalize on this profitable keyword, but do something totally different, like create a book that was filled with like jokey cartoon anatomy drawings or something. So always be thinking like that. How can you do something that's completely different to what everyone else has put out there and get in on some of that action? So to me, this could definitely be a profitable keyword. You just have to think outside the box and think about how you can stand out. So that was 2,200. Now the other thing you can do here, Publisher Rocket recently added the German and the UK markets. Now there are a number of words that are spelled differently in the UK. So some of our keywords here that include, for example, the word coloring, that is spelled differently in the UK. So we'll just go ahead and switch over now and we'll just type in, let's say, Easter. Can't spell today. So we'll add in that extra U. And we'll take a look in the UK market. Also, the entire process that you saw at the beginning, you can just go straight over to the UK store and do the exact same process on the UK store. You could do it in the German store. And then again, you would take it back here and you would make sure that you're set to the UK store in Publisher Rocket, and you would just go through the exact same steps that I've shown you here. So Easter coloring book for kids, $4.19. You know, everything else kind of seems like a bit of a bust, but that could definitely be something that you pursue. So, you know, we've been at this for what, 25 minutes or something like that, and we've already uncovered 4 potentially profitable keywords here pretty darn quickly. So you can see, using those 3 tools in conjunction, the keywords everywhere, along with the AMZ suggestion expander, and then bringing it all over into Publisher Rocket, it's a pretty quick way to quickly uncover some potentially really profitable keywords. I hope you found that useful. If the idea of low content publishing is totally brand new to you, then please download my free guide, 3 steps to publishing your first low content book in less than a day. I have left a link to that in the description down below. If you liked this video, please don't forget to hit the like button, share it with your friends or anyone else you think might find it useful, and then you can check out these videos next for more on low content publishing. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.